Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Ovlik-Spiker, and today I have an honor and privilege to have with me Linda Lopeke of SMARTSTART. The conversation today is, I can already feel it's going to be amazing because Linda not only is a veteran when it comes to marketing with over 40 years under her belt, but what she does is so innovative that we're going to be talking about marketing of the future. But I want to, Linda, first and foremost, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And if you're up for it, dive right into the deep end. And let's start with your philanthropy side of the Smart Start, because I have never encountered anything like it when it comes to innovation, when it comes to making lasting contribution, when it comes to making intentional impact. Thousands of people have been impacted by you. Millions of dollars have been donated through Smart Start. So why don't we start right there?
Oh, thank you for asking about that, Sarah. Smart Start is a very interesting program, I think, and it was many years in development. And I started it, or I came up with the idea for it, rather, 20 years or so ago. I was lecturing at the Queen's School of Business on entrepreneurship. And the audience at that time was full of lots of young people who were headed into MBA programs, commerce programs, and had a keen interest in entrepreneurship. But at that time, their problem, they told me, was that nobody took them seriously because they were young. Their parents only wanted them to graduate and get a traditional, safe, secure job. And so they didn't take their business ideas seriously. They couldn't find anyone that would help them. And it reminded me of when I was very young. And an executive from a big software firm asked me when I was about 13 what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I told him I was going to be a systems engineer and a computer scientist. And he thought that was a very unusual career choice. You got to remember, like, this is 1967. There weren't really women in tech back then. And he decided that he was going to help me make that dream come true. But first he wanted to test me to see if I was really serious about it. Because he said, I had to understand that it's a challenging business, takes a lot of time, energy, and effort to learn how to do it. And he gave me, 5 or 6 technical manuals to just test my commitment to it. And I read them all, and I managed that they were all about different computer languages. So I learned all 6 of the computer languages that he had given me the technical manuals for. And he was impressed enough that he decided to make a few recommendations on my behalf. And that was how I ended up starting my post-secondary education at 13. And then I graduated at 16, and then I got my first job in tech then. And from that point forward, a lot of people, all men actually, put their careers at risk to give me opportunities to do things that were not considered mainstream or traditional. And because of that, my first 10 years in banking and finance were really fantastic. So I'm listening to all these kids. They actually stormed the podium after my talk to tell me some of their ideas. And when I was listening to them, I was suddenly taken back to when I was 13. And this man that I told my crazy dream to, he didn't laugh. He actually made it possible for me to pursue it. So I'm listening to these kids, and in that instant, right away, I thought, I have all the skills that can help these kids, and I should do something to make their dreams possible the way my mentors made my dreams possible. And I thought that was, I didn't know it was going to be Smart Start at the time. I just knew that I had probably spent my whole career preparing for this moment, and now I should take these opportunities that I had and make them available to other people.
Mm.
So it took me a few years to think about how to put the program together, how to administer it, how to make it greater than just what one person could do. And
Mm-hmm.
I put the thing together at my kitchen table, and I dedicated the program to my 5 most influential mentors. And I made it available online right at the time of the big recession of 2008. But I had already had seen my own business through 3 economic recessions. So I knew that it's entirely possible to create fabulous opportunities in the worst of economic times. And so I put Smart Start
Oh,
out
yes.
there, and it worked out quite well. And now the interesting thing about it was that I made this public declaration to donate $50 million in services to make someone else's dreams come true. And I shopped it all around the universities, all of the big universities, but nobody would really take me seriously that I was going to do this. And so then I started looking for other places to make it happen. And that's the whole thing about entrepreneurship. You get an idea, you put it out there, and it doesn't always land the first time. It doesn't always evolve the way you imagined it.
Yeah.
But if you believe in it, you have to keep putting it out there, and you have to be willing to take on the rejection, because I would say from my own experience that 90% of success is just dealing with rejection and continuing to do the work even when you don't feel like it and there's no evidence at all that what you're doing is landing or creating any kind of a ripple. So I had a strategy for how I was going to launch the thing, and I just implemented it exactly as I had envisioned it.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea behind it was there's only so much you can do as one person. And I wanted to reach and help as many young entrepreneurs as possible bring their dreams to life. And we had people in SmartStart anywhere from, well, the youngest one had just had his 13th birthday when he came in, and the oldest one was 88. Then we had most of our people were in their 40s and 50s. But the original 65 members of SmartStart, they were all young people from the university where I had done this lecture. And a lot of them are still with me today, which is really cool. And that was something else that I didn't plan on. But the reality is, as you succeed in business, you get more and more opportunities. And those new opportunities create new challenges for you. So it's not that the people who started out in 2008 had to stay this long to learn what we do here. It's just that they were so successful, they kept getting more and more opportunities that required new skills, new ways of thinking, new ways of doing business. And of course, even I, who have been working now I started my first job in 1967. That's a long time ago now, 50 years, I guess, 50 years plus. And I'm still learning things as well. It's a lifelong endeavor. Anyhow, the idea behind it was to make, as their dreams became real, that I wanted them to give back to their communities, their clients, people that they could help as well. And in that way, because it's now not just me, many, many more dreams are coming to life. So we started out with 0 people, of course, because I just had an idea. And I think it was the end of February, we were at 208,001 people had been exposed to SmartStart and in some way impacted by it. So if it had just been me, I could never have reached that many people. But it's been interesting to see how big it grew. The other thing that a lot of people don't know, although most of the Smart Starters know it, is that 2 days after the 1-year anniversary of launching the program, I was in a terrible accident caused by an impaired driver. And that left me with catastrophic brain and spinal cord injuries. And then I was not personally able to do the work in the Smart Start program that I had planned to do at the pace that I had planned to do it, because I couldn't read, write, or speak or take care of myself anymore. But the way I had set up the program was such that it would live on and carry on without me, and that's exactly what it did. Now, this is the type of dream business that a lot of people fantasize about, having a business that carries on even though they are not there participating in it. And I had originally set it up to do just that. So there was only one element that could not occur during my period of rehab, which was 8 years long and cost a huge fortune. And that was I couldn't personally speak to the people in the program, but all of the program materials and all of the books I'd written about it continued to sell and support. And then, of course, the Smart Starters themselves were giving back their energies as envisioned in the program. And I did not realize how big Smart Start had gone in that first year until I was fighting with the insurers to prove that I had a legitimate business, because the insurers could not believe that that one person could have done all the things that I said had been done and lost. So they hired 5 big accounting firms to put me through forensic accounting audits to validate whether or not what I had said was true. And as a result of the insurance investigations and these forensic audits, I found out that in its first year, we had delivered just over $10 million worth of support and had helped, I think, somewhere over 3,000 people.
Wow. Wow.
And so I was really surprised by that, because I was really busy that first year and I wasn't focused on the numbers so much. I was focused on implementing the plans and strategies that I'd come up with. And so I was really surprised, actually. But it was kind of a cool feeling too. Then I was very frustrated, of course, because when I first set up the plan for myself, the idea was I would deliver the $50 million commitment in 10 years, which just would happen to coincide with when I could retire at 65. But then I had the big delay, and I couldn't get back to helping people again until 2017, I think it was. So there was no new programming released in SmartStart until 2017. And then I came back with a bunch of really cool new things, I thought. Some of them did well, some of them didn't. But it's like that with every business. You know, not every idea you have is a winner, but you just still have to believe in the work and the value in what you're doing and bringing to the table. So I just kept coming up with different things. And I'm really pleased with the work that we're doing now. I think it's probably the best work that I've ever contributed to the program. And I also think too that had it not been for the experience of the catastrophic brain injury, it would not be as good as it is, because one interesting thing that I observed from losing the ability to read, write, and remember and interact with people is it made me have to go back to when you're first a child and you're learning how to write. And I don't know if it was like this for you because you're much younger than I am, but when I learned how to write, they had around the top of the classroom all of these cards that
Yes.
had the shapes of the letters.
Mm-hmm.
And I was devastated that I remember the moment I realized I could not write.
Wow.
I had barely come to terms with the fact that I couldn't read. And a few days before the accident, a book of mine had been released. And I knew that I had written a book because it was my picture on the cover and I knew my name, but I could not read anything in that book and I could not have answered a single question about it. And that was very shocking. But the moment I realized I couldn't write either was shocking. And then the very next thing I thought of was, wow, I'm going to learn everything again, but as an adult. And now I will have a deep understanding of what it's like for people coming into the Smart Start program, because they're coming in because they don't have the business literacy knowledge that I have. And that makes it hard for them to have a successful business without it, because the program itself is based on 12 founding principles that if they are not in place, it doesn't matter what business idea you have, you're not going to succeed with it. And then I was able to extrapolate how it's very similar to laying down new paths of thinking about business, which is what Smart Start was all about in the beginning. But because now I had to go through the same process of laying down new neural pathways so that I could even access everything that I knew and was bringing into the program, then I had a much deeper understanding of how to do it in a way that would make it possible and more enjoyable for our participants to learn what they would need to learn. Because a lot of the stuff they need to learn is pretty dry and boring. It's not the sexy, exciting unicorns and rainbow shit that everybody's out there selling. But without it, it's very difficult to succeed.
My goodness. Thank you so much for sharing this. There's so many ways that this can evolve, but something that you mentioned at the very beginning was overcoming and actually living through 3 economic downturns,
Mhm.
your businesses, and then overcoming this catastrophic brain injury. When you and I talked about it before, and you mentioned at one point that it took you 1,200 attempts to be able to put your pants back on,
Oh,
talking
yes,
about
yes.
resilience and persistence. And then
Yeah.
ability to take all of that and see the light and look for the growth and look for the expansion. I mean, that is definition of resilience in itself.
Mhm.
um, I would like to continue conversation in that direction for a moment, not so much from a perspective of our current reality and
Mhm.
adding oil to all the hardship and pain. But I would like for the audience to hear, for those of them who feel scared, who feel uncertain, like how much power each person has within us to turn things around for ourselves.
Mhm.
And you just mentioned before we hopped on a call, I saw that you posted something about the only way to really secure your future is through entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
And do you mind sharing a little bit more on that topic? Like
Okay.
relying on yourself, finding your inner reliance, inner strengths
Mhm.
to plow through whatever life throws at you.
That was a lesson that I learned in 1982. That was the first major economic recession that I went through. Now, I had mentioned that uh, I had started my post-secondary education when I was 13, but I actually started applying to computer science programs when I was 10. and I got rejected 3 times. I didn't have the prerequisite high school diploma to even be considered for entry, but I just believed that this was the path that I was meant to be on. And so in 1967, the catalyzing event was that my aunt had been killed in a car accident when she was 21. And she had also wanted to be a systems engineer, and she had fought her way in to tech, and she had just landed her entry-level position when she was killed in this accident.
Oh, wow.
And because I had admired her my whole life, and she was the person I was closest to in my entire family, I decided that I was going to pick up where she left off, because we'd had a lot of conversations about knowing what you want to do with your life and going after it, even when all of the odds were against you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that probably started me off with the right mindset. And then I had that fortunate opportunity of babysitting for this guy who had this major executive role and could help move me forward with that dream. When I got my first real job, though, of course, everybody starts at the bottom. So I was thrilled to have this bottom level job making $2 an hour in the data center where I was hired. So I'm living my dream job, $2 an hour. Yeah, that was a lot of money
Yeah.
back then as well. And it was considered a good paying job, but I didn't just learn my own job. I learned every bloody job in the data center. I was so excited to be there.
Oh, wow.
And I had lots of fantastic opportunities through my hard work in that career. One of which was that when I was 17, I was put in charge of a major implementation of every financial system that
Mm.
was in the bank. So consequently, if you have a mortgage or a credit card or ever use a foreign exchange service to change your currency to go to another country, then you would be interacting with some of my work as a systems engineer, because I designed how those systems would work. And now many of them are universal. A funny thing about that opportunity was the man who gave me that opportunity, he didn't allow me to sign any of my emails, or back then it was messages, like memos,
Mm-hmm.
typed memos,
Yes.
not emails. I couldn't sign them with my name. I had, well, my first name, Linda, because he didn't want anyone to know that it was a woman leading this team. I had a team of engineers and operators who were like 2-3 times my age. And of course, he didn't want any of his superiors at the bank to know that he put a woman in charge of this either, because that was actually the worst thing. Not so much that I was 17, but that I was a woman.
Wow.
And and it was kind of a funny time back then, but it was fun too. Anyhow, that opportunity led to more and more opportunities. And for 10 years, I had this fantastic ride, and my eye was on the C-suite. My dream at that time was to be a female CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Then we got hit with the 1982 recession.
Mm-hmm.
And leading up to that, because there's always predictors showing you that things are going to happen. And
Yes.
that was started around 1980. And I had people who had come to work for me at the company I was working at from their safe, secure jobs at the bank. And I could see now that things were going to start spiraling downward. And I felt very responsible for their futures and their families. So when I saw the downturn coming, I had also a very reasonably successful speaking career. And every year the management team would present its budgets to the executives. And I I knew that my people were on the edge of losing their jobs. Some of them had just come to work for me 2, 3 months
Mhm.
before. And so instead of fighting for a part of the budget from our company, I said, look, I will go out and donate all my speaking fees to cover the operating cost of my people's salaries
Wow.
if you keep their jobs in place. And so the first year they agreed to that. So 1981, they were safe. 1980, they were safe. 1982 came along, and I put forth how much money I was going to make and bring back as a
Mhm.
speaker to cover their costs. And at first, my budget was approved. But about 3, 4 weeks later, um, the head of the company said, no, they believed in me, but because of the recession, they did not think it would be possible for me to deliver on my promise. And for that reason, they were rejecting my proposal for that year. And it so happened that I was the most expensive person on the payroll for my group, obviously. And so I said, well, if you keep my people, I will leave, and you can have my salary to pay their salaries.
Oh, wow.
So they agreed to that, and that was how I lost my job and my C-level track. But what I ended up doing in 1982 was I just went out and I implemented the same plan that I had proposed to them that they didn't believe would work because of the economic downturn. And in 9 months, I brought back almost double what I had committed to do.
Wow.
So that was my first real life experience with you can't let other people tell you what is possible.
Mhm. Yeah.
You have to just figure out what you're going to do, and then you get out there and you do whatever has to be done to make that happen. And because I didn't have any income coming in, it was really important to make it work.
Mhm. I
And
imagine.
yeah, and well, I'm a very stubborn person too. And the fact that this bunch of men told me that they don't believe it could work the way I said it would was just another mitigating factor that made me stubborn enough to prove them wrong. So that's how the first year went, and it got better and better after that. And I had all kinds of crazy ideas about how I was going to run my business, and none of them were mainstream at all, but they all did work out. Not 100%, but I learned some valuable lessons along the way. All entrepreneurs go through that. You know, you second guess some of your decisions. Some of the decisions you make seem right at the time, but then when you get into the contract, you find out, oh boy, that was a bad move. Don't do that
Yeah.
again. And I remember I learned some very valuable pricing lessons there.
Mm.
One was one that every entrepreneur needs to learn, which is a lot of people are making the mistake now of reducing their prices, discounting heavily,
Mhm.
changing how they deliver services,
Mm.
and not necessarily in a positive way. And I never did that. I never did it during the recession. I don't counsel my people to do that now. I think it's a huge mistake. And that's all because I learned a really valuable lesson very early on in my business in the 80s, as I had pitched on this proposal for something that I really, really wanted to do.
Mhm.
And I did make the short list. Hundreds of people had proposed. I made the short list of 3. I made the mistake of thinking that the contract would be awarded to the lowest price provider.
Mm.
And when I didn't get the contract, I followed up to find out who did, and I knew that who my competitor was, and I knew they had pitched a much higher price
Mhm.
than I did. And I remember the hiring manager saying, "We really did like what you proposed,
Yeah.
but the price was so low that we just felt that the other company believed more in themselves. And that was true. They did. So I never made that mistake ever again of changing my pricing, and I never went for a low price offer ever again. And so I think, I understand why people are afraid now, and they think the thing to do is to lower the pricing on whatever it is, their signature solution they're offering.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a huge mistake, because what you're communicating when you do that is that you don't believe your offer was worth whatever you priced it at originally, or you don't think that you're good enough to
Yeah.
deserve the price that you're charging. And this is not the message that you want to send to your market. I
Yeah.
do think in times of economic crisis, it is appropriate to be more flexible on your payment terms, but not to discount your price.
Yeah.
What you can do, if you want to have another offer that's more affordable, is you can create something new at a lower price point and
Mm-hmm.
offer that, even if it's just on a temporary basis.
Yeah.
But to take your signature offer and change the price because you are afraid of economic circumstances is not a good business move to make. And it actually broadcasts your fear of the future, when in fact, I know, not only because of surviving the 1982 recession and doing so well, but 2008 was a terrible time to launch SmartStart, and it it played no role at all in terms of how much we were able to do, because just in 2008 alone, um, we had done $5.7 million worth of work.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, I suppose, an indication that if you have the right thing that you're putting out there and you truly, truly believe in it, and you position it and promote it
Yeah.
appropriately and effectively and represent yourself well, you can still achieve phenomenal goals. And the other thing that I learned from my experience over these past decades is, on the surface, a recession and an economic downturn feels like there's no opportunity, when in fact, my own experience is it's the time of greatest opportunity you will ever have. At the end of an economic downturn is always a growth period. And
Mm-hmm.
so it
Yeah.
is in your best interest always to capitalize on a recession, an economic downturn period, to prepare for the growth period to come, because it always is followed by that. And it takes time, as you're experiencing and so many other smart starters are experiencing. You don't just have an idea and put it out there the next day and make it immediately successful. There's
Yeah.
a lot of work that has to go behind that idea. And
Yes,
for many,
especially I love that you address that, because I think over the past couple of years, especially, we've been in this bubble of the service-based industry when everything is overnight success.
mm,
And with every adversity, I feel so many people try to pivot and innovate and invent something new out of fear, as opposed to really think things out.
mm,
And it's almost like putting out the fires, as opposed to really taking a step back and say, okay, I'm not just here to survive the moment, but
mm,
I need to prepare myself to thrive when everything restarts again, almost.
mm,
Because it can be just as dangerous to hit those bottlenecks when everything restarts and you're not set up to
you're not
receive.
ready. Yeah.
Exactly. It can be even more dangerous to your sustainability, to your reputation, even.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for bringing this up.
I think it's the perfect time to prepare. And also, most of my articles that I've written lately have all carried the message that this is the time to lean into leadership, not away from marketing.
Yep.
Because it's not what we're going through now that is the biggest threat to your business. Obscurity is the biggest threat to your business.
Yeah.
This is the time when you render obscurity obsolete and prepare everything you will need to be well positioned to hit the ground running when the market opens up again, which it will do. And especially if you had a traditional job or career and now have come to the realization that the only income security you'll ever have is the income you create for yourself through entrepreneurship. There's a lot to learn about entrepreneurship and building a business from an idea into something that is viable and capable of generating sustainable income for you. That needs to be addressed. And this is the perfect time to do that work and the preparation of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope a lot of people will take up the opportunity to consider being a part of SMARTSTART. We're the only program that I'm aware of that supports a business owner at roughly $70,000 per 90 days. But um, it's still a lot of hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And that support from our corporate sponsors is only going to be renewed to those who bring a certain seriousness and consistency to the work that they're doing. But the bottom line here is that when you have a business of your own, your income potential is unlimited, completely unlimited. You control that, and you control your own destiny too if you're willing to do the work. But if you're buying into these crazy notions that you only need just this one magic thing and money's going to start flowing in, I've never heard a bigger bullshit line in my life. And that was, in fact, another reason that I started SMARTSTART, because at the turn of the century, when the internet was taking off and I had come up with this idea, I fell into the trap of thinking, oh, this whole online digital business thing must be completely different. I need to, learn all this new stuff. And I was paying attention to who was out there telling people, what to do and how to approach it and this and that. And I'm listening to this advice and I'm thinking to myself, that's never going to work.
Mm.
And in fact, most of the people coming into SMARTSTART now have been through that same thing. And they tell me, well, I spent this, I did that, I did everything. It didn't work. Well, of course it didn't work because it wasn't set up in a proper foundation to ever work. And I really hate that so many people have been taken advantage of that way. But, it is what it is. Everybody has an equal opportunity to join SMARTSTART. There's the applications open to everyone. We only take on people, though, whose business is economically viable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first level of research that we do, which any business owner should do that, but most people don't. So, and a lot of, like I said, the 12 foundational principles, they're not exciting and sexy, but they're absolutely essential. And if you don't have a core competency in these areas, you're not going to hit the random lottery, so to speak.
No, and as somebody who has been through your program, I can attest that it is refreshing in so many ways. And one of the things that I have really taken away was, and it allowed me with your support to really see myself in a whole new light. Really elevate the ideas and really see the bigger picture way beyond what I was able to envision and daring to envision. And then as we were putting the foundation in place, like you said, there's so many things. There's like, oh, even somebody who has a marketing degree as myself is like, oh yeah, that's right. That does apply here too. I totally forgot about that.
Mm,
So speaking of, for the last couple of moments, if you mind um, indulging us a little bit, what are your prediction? What do you think is that direction that we're moving in when it comes to marketing?
mhm,
We have been through the funnel hacking, so to speak. We have been through
mhm,
very automated stuff.
mhm.
What do you think is really the audiences are craving at any level, and what can we really take away from and implement, so to speak?
Well, not
In
to sound like a broken record, but it's the same thing that I've been teaching for the last 20 years, which is uh, more than ever, people respond to human
mm,
marketing. Right now, after the watching what has happened the last 20 years online, there is a tsunami of skepticism out there. And you need to be honest, open, transparent,
yeah,
real, and human. That is what makes marketing succeed.
yeah,
And so many people have been conditioned to think that the way to build a business is through artifice,
hmm,
illusion,
yeah,
um, so many things that are not rooted in reality. And perhaps a mastery of the fundamentals of business and the fundamental principles of marketing will be more important than ever before, because the market is going to be flooded
hmm,
with a lot of mediocrity. I mean, it's full of mediocrity and noise now, but it's going to be much worse in the coming years. And so a certain level of mastery is required. The interesting thing, having been involved in business for 40 plus years now, is that nothing has changed. I can tell you, I've been at the front, I've had a front row seat to every technological change that has happened since the 50s, and nothing about business has changed. You have to know your market. You have to have something that they need or want.
hmm,
You need to be honest with them about how you're going to deliver it, what it's going to do for them. Yes, like times have changed, tools have changed, people have not,
yeah,
and the underlying principles of successful business and marketing are the same now as they were 100 years ago. And there's no shortcut to success if you are not willing to invest the time in learning how to do things well. Then people are not going to spend money on what you are offering, because they are even more sensitized now
hmm,
to what is truly valuable,
yeah,
what is 100% for real, what is going to be worth their time and money. And so you need to be building your reputation. You build your reputation by demonstrating honesty and integrity
yeah,
in all the things that you do. And that often means that you have to do the right thing when it is the least convenient, the most expensive, and no one else would ever know.
wow,
That's what integrity is about. And people are going to be more sensitive to that than ever before. And I think that um, they're going to be extra sensitive too, because think about all the people who believed their lives were safe and secure,
mm,
coming from a world of traditional employment.
yeah,
Now they're finding out that that was an illusion, and these institutions that they've dedicated their entire lives and careers to, at the end of the day, let them go without even a second thought, because they no longer fit whatever the agenda was of their employer. And it's kind of interesting and sad at the same time. I'm really glad that I was, let's see, I was pretty young when I went out on my own, maybe 20, not even 25, 25, 26, 27, yeah, in my mid 20s anyway.
Mhm.
And so, and I am also very grateful for all of the men who took a chance on me and taught me everything they knew about business. And, you know, they were all men who supported honesty, openness, transparency, excellence. You have to be excellent at what you do. And, but they also at the same time said that you'd be completely in control of your destiny and your future if you
Mhm.
just did those four things.
Yeah.
And that's definitely been my experience. And so that's what I recommend to all our smart starters. And I'm very proud of the fact that every smart starter who has been through the program, even though the shit's hitting the fan right now, they have solid businesses in place and are doing well. And those who are like, we have people in startup growth and scale. So the startups, they are going to be very strong when the market opens up again. Startup, when you're starting from nothing, it takes longer to get to the sales levels that you want than if you started, say, in the
Yeah.
growth phase. Because the growth people, they already had an audience, they already had a reputation, they had signature solution. So they're not starting from zero. And those people tend to begin making sales at the levels that they are hoping for before they even finish the Smart Start program. But
Mhm.
I can't say the same for a startup person because they're coming in with nothing. And it takes time to build the things, the assets that you need to
Mhm.
create something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried about any of our people. They all have really strong businesses. They're all going to do really well.
Oh, absolutely. And you and I started with this process back in September when I literally scrubbed everything clean in my own business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it started like this leap of faith. It didn't make any sense at the time because the programs I had in place, they were great. They
Mm-hmm.
delivered results.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember as we were working together, I was like, no, there's something more to it. And I had to learn how to trust this instinct.
Mm-hmm.
And we put everything in place just in time for now when I can literally, like you said, strong foundation in place and I can
Mm-hmm.
really focus on serving as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
being scattered and worrying, oh my gosh, what's tomorrow going to bring?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. You're
um,
welcome.
there was
I'd
something,
be interested in knowing what is the most fun or the most interesting thing that you learned or liked the most about Smart Start.
oh my goodness, where do we start? Building the foundation, definitely, and then understanding, having a deeper understanding of how you can envision something years in advance
Mm-hmm.
and still focus on the moment as you're putting foundation in place for it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have both simultaneously, strong foundation and the basics, but still
Mm-hmm.
the agility and flexibility to move and shift and change.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I really took away from working within Smart Start was focusing on the highest common denominator and the highest level of service.
Mm-hmm.
When we could have a lot of discussions and brainstorming, and then coming back to the office and coming back inward, I was like, okay, which ideas of these really resonate? What is it really needed, and how is it needed, and how can it be presented in a way that, like we said, hits that highest common denominator?
Mm-hmm.
um, that has been a great experience altogether. And teaching me patience because I'm a very impatient person sometimes. And I don't have a hard time admitting it. Um, and it's been a reminder at times that just like athletic career, right? You don't come to the gym, you might have the brand new sneakers, brand new outfit, and you can look super cool. but you
Mhm.
have to go through the fundamentals. You have to
Mhm.
practice those until you internalize them. And even then, you show up every day. You
Mhm.
lose games, you show up, you lose, you show up.
Mhm.
It's not like this.
Mhm.
And that was one of the biggest hits to my ego
Mhm.
uh, at some time, to allow myself this time, as opposed to, oh my gosh, it's not happening overnight, you know. Or within, what should I say, like typical in the industry, 90 days, right?
Mhm.
A lot of things are promised within 90 days.
Mhm. The only thing I promise in 90 days is that you'll learn all of the 12 critical
Yeah.
competencies in 12 days, and there's about 40 frameworks involved in that
Mhm.
that I've created to teach those lessons. But
Yeah.
then after you understand what it's not like you wait 90 days and then you build something. You're actually building your business from the very first day
Yeah.
and doing all the things you need to do. But if you didn't have already a platform and an audience and assets in place, you're not going to make sales in 90 days.
Yeah.
Because the next part, you're going to have to be focused on building your creative assets and your marketing campaign plans and all of the other things that you need to support what you're doing. But what I can tell everyone is that at least they are doing it in the way that is going to turn into the results that they want. And this is where it becomes very important to be persistent,
Hmm.
consistent, to
Yeah.
trust the process and remain emotionally detached from the outcome.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely. On that note, one of the greatest lessons I think that we all, um, I hope that the audience takes away from this too, even though we're talking about marketing and sales,
mhm,
um, we need to remind ourselves that we're building this for the long term.
yes.
That as sexy as it sounds, high ticket sales and bringing new and new and new clients,
Mm,
like you're saying, 10 out of 10 marketing, but 0 out of 10 delivery.
yeah.
That's where
Yeah.
those fundamentals really come in place. So that
Mhm,
not only you bring the client in, but now you can actually deliver the service
mhm,
with excellence
mhm,
and serve them beyond their expectations
mhm,
with integrity,
mhm,
which, just like the human to human marketing, I believe is going to also be currency of the future
mhm.
businesses of tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is this the integrity in delivering and really caring for people and really caring for whether they're clients or people on your team that you're leading, like you have demonstrated throughout all of those years,
Mm.
So I hope that the audience can really hear that and take that away as well from this conversation.
I think that the right people will hear that,
Yeah.
and the right people seem to be attracted to Smart Start because um, although it's a tough program and you have to earn the support, this is not a gift. Well, it's a gift in a way, in that nobody provided anything like this to me when I was first building my business. But you you are taking control of something that is for you and for it's going to benefit your life. So you want to take away satisfaction in what you're building, and you want to know that you'll have this forever and ever, because
Hmm.
once you've learned how to apply the framework, it just performs better and better each time you implement it.
Hmm.
And sadly, a lot of the people who maybe um, had a tremendous lucky break or success in the past, doing things differently than we do them here, those businesses are falling apart now. They were always a hot mess behind the scenes, but that wasn't so noticeable to the public, perhaps. And because they were often built on shaky, leaky bucket type foundations, they're just going to collapse now. And that's kind of a shame too, because a lot of them had very viable business ideas and very, very solid programs, but they weren't built on to last. They were built for very short term. So the people coming into Smart Start have been through a lot of those short term potential solutions that didn't pan out. And now they're still very serious about wanting to have a business that's built to last. And that's why they buckle down and they do the work, put it in place. And the
Mm,
other thing that a lot of them are not sharing with the public is that it took them 10 years to get to the point where they're creating this illusion that it happened overnight. But I know these people. I've
mm,
known them for 20 years, and I know that a lot of them didn't make any headway for the first 10 years.
yeah.
So, but anyway, I
Okay.
don't worry so much about what other people are doing. I just worry about what I'm doing. Right?
Exactly.
And so that's what I teach.
So
Forget about your competitors. Just do what you have to do.
the only competitor there is the one in the mirror.
That's right.
So
And you should be concerned if you look at your work from 3, 4 years ago and it looks the same as the work you're producing now. You should be very afraid because you haven't done any growth at all in 3, 4 years. You should almost look back at work from 3, 4 years ago and feel a little bit cringeworthy about it. And that is an example of growing and growing. I have all of the stuff from the early days of Smart Start,
mhm.
and I certainly cringe when I look at it now, although the ideas were sound, and at the time the execution was really good. It was the best I could do at the time, but the
Exactly.
execution of the work we're doing now is better, and it should be better because it's like 20 years later. If it wasn't better, it would be a problem.
Yeah, yeah, I can so relate to that one because I was just looking through my old videos also. And the content, it always comes from the heart. It always is the best that you can produce at the moment, the truest version of what it is.
Hmm.
The content itself was like, oh my goodness, I remember when I was in this space, or the graphics when I first
Yeah.
started with my first logo. Oh my goodness,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not surprised I haven't got any clients. But Linda, this has been such a delightful conversation and enlightening. So thank you for being here. How can people get in touch with you?
I'm on LinkedIn, and everyone is welcome to connect with me there. And that's where you'll be able to read my twice a week messages relating to marketing and business development. That's
They're brilliant, by
pretty.
the way.
That's pretty much all I write about on LinkedIn. And my website is smartstartcoach.com. And I'm on Facebook too. We have a Facebook page. The at Smart Start Business Club is our Facebook page. We have 185,000 plus people over there. And we have a group as well
Mhm.
for unlimited entrepreneurs and visionary leaders. And the group is at Unlimited Leaders.
Mhm.
So
Thank
lots of ways to find me online. And I
Beautiful.
look forward to meeting new people all the time. And anyone is welcome to apply to Smart Start, to our philanthropy program. And we're going to open up 6 additional spots this year. Although I had been cutting back over time, but I think this is a good time to open up some additional spots, because I'm hoping that there's going to be some people out there who decide to make the best use of this time to
Mhm.
prepare having a business of their own the right way from the beginning. That would be great.
The right way. We'll leave it at that. Thank you, Linda, so much. Have a good one.
I will, and thank you for inviting me to do this chat with you.
Pleasure. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.